Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and we're back with some more of our Warhammer The Old World content, continuing our look through the main Warhammer The Old World rulebook. So we've done the general introduction sections and covered some of the more generic principles of the rulebook, and we're now starting to move into the rules proper and playing the game. So we have seen a number of these things in light detail through the Warhammer community articles, and we're now going to go through each of the different sort of phases of the game. We're going to be starting with the strategy phase. So first up, strategy phase. As all the phases, they're broken down into 4 sub-phases. So the 4 sub-phases of the strategy phase are the start of the turn, command, conjuration, and rally fleeing troops. So, start of the turn. Some units have special actions or tests as detailed in the rules. However, this is uncommon. Some scenarios may require a test or a pause to determine if victory conditions have been achieved. You've also got the table tidy up of dice, casualties. Often as you're going through the turn, particularly given the last turn is melee combat, you've obviously pulled models out that have been killed, put them to one side. Maybe you've got dice lying around, so this is a good chance to tidy all of that up and make sure the table's ready for the beginning of the next turn. And it's also a good opportunity, so almost like a beginning pause of the game, where if you had a question about one of your opponent's rules, or the faction rules or something, particularly the active player is thinking about his turn, or maybe the inactive player is looking at what the active player might do, and he's got a question about how some rules interaction might work with, because you might not necessarily have read all the specific rules for an army maybe that you don't play. So this is a good opportunity to do that. Next up is the command section. Here the active player chooses one model at a time that is not fleeing and has special rules that can be used in the command subphase. And unless stated otherwise, a model can only use a special rule once per command subphase. So you're not going to be having a single model doing all of this stuff. So unless it's specific to that character, normal characters are only going to be doing this once per command subphase. Then you're into conjuration. So this is kind of like the magic section of the strategy phase. And this is where wizards can cast their enchantment and their hex spells. However, the wizard must not be fleeing. And it's also the inactive player will attempt to dispel at the same time during this subphase. So normally a wizard will cast a spell, and then the inactive player will immediately attempt to dispel it if it's successfully cast. So that's all done in one go. And then the final part of the strategy phase here is rally fleeing units. The active player must attempt to rally their fleeing units, so you can't just let them flee off. A rally test, you roll 2d6 and you test against the unit's leadership. If failed, the unit continues to flee during the relevant subphase of the movement phase. Rallied units, however, if a unit rallies, it may immediately perform a free reform. A rallied unit, however, may not charge during this turn and count as having moved for the purposes of shooting. So even if you rally the unit and you don't move it, you still count as moved for the purpose of that shooting. Otherwise, it acts as normal moving and so on. So basically, it can't charge, and you're going to get your relevant modifiers for moving and shooting. You also have insurmountable losses. So a unit that is below 50% of its starting number of models, so this isn't unit strength or anything else, it's just actual number of models, they get a -1 to their leadership when they attempt to rally. Now, if the unit is below 25% of its starting number of models, it can only rally on a double one, and in most cases you can consider that unit lost. So it does make you think about wanting to really, if a unit is fleeing and it's lost a certain number of models, but maybe not quite 50% or not quite 25%, sometimes it's worth even just, directing some shooting against that fleeing unit just to make sure it doesn't come back into the battle. So that's really something to consider. Often you sit there going, right, that one's fleeing, so now I'm going to shoot at something else. But actually, maybe you want to shoot your crossbows at that fleeing unit just to take them below 25%, because you can pretty much say they're gone from the game. So there you go. That brings us to the end of the strategy phase. The strategy phase is the shortest, simplest part of the entire game system set of rules. It's very clear what you're doing. There's not a lot of rules and actions that are taking place in this. And I would say the two biggest things that you're going to be focused on is doing those enchantment and hex spells and rallying the fleeing units. Those are the two real most important parts of this phase. I hope this video was useful. It's a short video. We're going to be moving on from the simplest phase to the most complex phase, in my opinion. Some people might say it's the combat phase. I think the movement phase in a rank and flank game is the most complex phase. So we're going to be moving on to that next, and that's going to be taking a bit longer. But there you go, that's the strategy phase. If you found it useful and you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't know, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, please hit that subscribe button. It's free for you to do, and it means a lot for me, so thank you for that in advance. And I have been taking the feedback on, and I am trying to always improve, so I do welcome that feedback. So, for example, you'll see the thumbnail for this video is slightly changed. Some people said it wasn't very clear because of the images behind the words and everything else, so I've tried to make the thumbnail a little bit clearer. So I do welcome feedback, and I do try and take that on board and improve where I can. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you all very, very soon.